welcome everyone. My name is Janet. I'm working through the Bible and today I am in the book of Numbers, working through chapters 14, 15 and 16. Now get ready because these three chapters, well, the first one and the last one specifically are really, we're going on a journey, all right. So if you're ready, then I will begin. So we start this chapter with the Israelites weeping. Yes, they're weeping, and it says they wept all night. Why, you might ask? Well, if you think back to yesterday's chapter, the leaders of the tribes had been out and they'd been spying on Canaan, the land of Canaan, which is the promised land that they are heading towards. Now they're wanting to seek out, see what's there, what they're up against. So they came back, the spies, and they told them really what was going on. And remember, Caleb was the one who was very, enthused. He said, we can overcome these people, we can get there. But the majority of the other tribe leaders didn't think so. They were scared. They were saying, no, there's too much there. We'll get swallowed up. They'll kill us. And so this is why the people start weeping, because they have allowed fear to get into them, and they do not see God as somebody who is going to take care of them. They don't have the faith, so they see their fate as being one of death. They think they're going to go over there and the Amalekites are going to kill them. That's what they believe. So after crying and getting so terrified and in fear, they go to Moses complaining, saying, you've taken us away from Egypt, the land where we had all this milk and honey. Yes, they were slaves, I guess, but they don't see that as a bad thing now. They see that as a better place to be. They're worried for their children, what are they going to grow up in? They're going to be in the wilderness. They're not going to have any food. It's going to be just disastrous for them. And they're just going on and on and on to Moses. And this is where Caleb and Joshua step in. They're listening to all this and they're like, they have to speak up. They're like, come on, people. Do you not remember what God has done for us so far? They must have reiterated, all of what had happened in Egypt, how they had been saved, all those plagues. What have they seen in the actual wilderness in Mount Sinai already? They've got the tabernacle, which is guiding them with a huge cloud over them, with fire coming out. And they're like, come on, we can beat these people. We've been there, we've seen it. We know we can overcome them. We've got God on our side. Have faith, people. We can do this, and we're going to have a beautiful land once we get there. Just trust. If you trust, we can do this. Did this help? No, this just enraged the people more. They end up starting to throw stones. It's just further and further getting absolutely just chaos. So now God at this point is enraged. He is just so angry, he's doing all of these things and they're still not believing in him. So he goes to Moses and he says, I will strike them all down. He's done this before and said, now make you, Moses, a great nation out of him only. He wants to get rid of all the people again and just start afresh with Moses. And he says to Moses, how can they not see what I've done for them? How can they not see? But Moses, still steadfast and strong for his people, his love for his people, pleads with God not to do this. He pleads with God to show his strength, his mercy, and his forgiveness to the people. Because that's what he is, not let their sins to sort of break him into this rage. He wants God to show he is strong by, staying strong, forgiving, and showing the right side to the people. And so God listens to Moses. They really have a real strong connection, these two, and he listens and he does forgive them. But God doesn't just go, okay, I forgive you. No, he has a punishment, always. And the punishment is that they are going to now live in the wilderness for 40 years. That is his punishment. And he also sends a plague on all the 10 leaders who had gone to Canaan and had brought this information back in such a doubting way, not having faith. So they were given a plague, creating so much distrust and so much fear into the people. But Caleb and Joshua, they were saved. They were saved because they had faith in the Lord. Now, on hearing this punishment, the Israelites tried to make amends by deciding that they were going to show God, okay, we know we can overcome the people in Canaan right now. So we're going to go out there and we're going to defeat them. We're going to take them on. And Moses is like, don't do it. You haven't got the Lord on your side. This isn't what the Lord wants right now. Just don't. Leave it alone. No, they would not listen. And they were so headstrong that they went off to Canaan, and they end up getting massacred by the Canaanites and the Amalekites. And this is where this chapter ends. Coming back, have they not learned? It's like they do not learn. They keep going through the same cycle, and they're causing so much devastation within their own camp because of this, just not having this inner faith with God. Now we move on to chapter 15, which is a little breather in between these two very dramatic chapters. So let us get into this chapter now. So after disobeying God yet again and facing a grave defeat, the Lord speaks to Moses, telling him to assure the people they'd get to the promised land. He's assuring them, look, you're going to get there. All this might have happened. You might have all these doubts and all these things, but you are going to get there. Now, please trust in me. Then he wants them to present a burnt offering to create a sweet aroma to the Lord. I guess he's wanting something sweet after all that's gone on. He's like, come on, you need to bring me something now because I've had a hard enough time trying to get through to you. So here are the offering instructions. Now, all offerings, whether it's going to be for a special vow or a free will offering, must be selected from their herd as God specifically directs via Moses. Now, each offering has to be accompanied with a specific amount of mixed flour and a quart of oil. Then exact instructions were given on each burnt offering and how to present it to the Lord. So if they were bringing a lamb, for example, they must also include a drink offering and a quart of wine. If they brought a ram, they had to bring 16 cups of grain and a measure of wine. If they brought a young bull, they had to bring 24 cups of fine flour and 2 quarts of wine and some olive oil. So that's how that was laid out. Now, these instructions were to be followed by all of the Israelites and any foreigners who were living in the land with them. Well, living in the wilderness with them at the moment. And I think it was nice that he included those that maybe they picked up along the way, who were maybe not having such a good time out there in the wilderness, and suddenly a big tribe sort of comes towards them and they're like, what's going on here? They get talking to them, they join with them, and so they are then included in these laws. And God also says that these laws must be carried out throughout the generations. We now move on to God talking again to Moses and saying that the people must always offer a percentage of what the land produces. They must always do that. I mean, that's a thanks for what the Lord has given to them. Obviously giving as soon as their crops then flourish, to give some of that first to the Lord as a thank you. So he said the first ground meal was to be given to the Lord. That was a given. And for anyone who accidentally failed to follow this rule, so if somebody didn't realise, this was a rule, and they accidentally just, used up their first produce for themselves, they forgot, or they just, whoops, I've done this, they had to offer a young bull to God. And then they would give that to the priest, who would present it to the Lord on their behalf for all of their community to be forgiven. Then if anyone sins deliberately, knowing this is a law, and they think, I'm going to have some of this produce anyway, I don't care, I'm not giving it to the Lord, they would then be cut off from their people. That's it, you're out. Then as we come to the close of this chapter, we hear a story of a man who was found cutting wood on a Sabbath. So on a day of rest, he was cutting wood, and the Israelites found him doing this, and they took him to Moses and Aaron to be judged against the Lord. And so the judgment was set, and it was already set, remember, in the book of Leviticus. Went through all of these rules, and so they had to follow that rule. So the people took him outside the camp and they stoned him to death. That was the rule. That was what had to be done, because he'd gone against the strict rule of a Sabbath being a day of rest. God also commanded the people to wear tassels on their garments to be reminded of his 10 commandments. So he wanted to give them something, physical to look at, so they would then use that as a symbol of what they were to remember. So it's like working with the mind and the physical. So that closes that chapter. Now we move into the most dramatic chapter of the three, chapter 16. And this is the Great Rebellion. So a rebellion is formed, and it's not only formed by just people of the Israelites, it's formed by some of the Levites, the holy priests. 3 of them specifically: Koran, Abiram, and Dathan. These are the 3. And they want to overthrow Aaron and Moses. So they managed to gather 250 princes together in the congregation to basically join them in this rebellion. So they go to Moses and he is just shocked. He's like, oh my goodness, you've been given this like sacred place. You're separated from the people. You're a Levi and you're doing this? But obviously this was not enough for them. They wanted more. Moses wanted them to stand before God for what they had done, but they refused. They just went to him and they were like, you have said we are going to go to the promised land. You said all of this and none of it has happened. Nothing has happened. You haven't provided anything. That we've left our place of Egypt to come here into the wilderness to starve and to die, and this is our fate. You have not delivered on your promise. That's where they stand. Now at this point, the calm, usually, heart-centered Moses became enraged. He is so angry that he's just like, he goes to the Lord and he says, do not respect them. Don't respect them at all, for what they've done. And so Moses, I guess because he's in this rage, he says, come back tomorrow in front of the tabernacle so that God can then decide what to do with him. But at this point, God had already made his decision. And he told Moses to step aside, that he was going to kill them all. At this point, Moses is like, please God, don't kill them all. This is not all of them's fault. This is a percentage of them, yes, but not all of them. Please don't kill them all. So God he always listens to Moses. He's like his wise owl, Moses is. So God just says, right, people, move away from the people who has rebelled against me. I want you to move away from them. What happens is the ground opens up and swallows all of those 3 who rebelled. So that's Koran, Dathan, and Abiram, and all of their families are just swallowed up by the earth. Now it doesn't just end here. God is not finished. He is so angry because of what has been going on. Like previously, there's just been one after the other. And then he continues by sending a fire to consume another 250 of the men that had been involved in this rebellion. They were just burnt up in smoke. And now the people are starting to mourn because obviously they're seeing death around them. They're saying like, oh my goodness, Moses, you are killing our people. The people of the Lord, you're killing them. And so because this is happening now, God just like, it's just more fuel to the fire. It's just like they're throwing fire at God and he is just like, right, that's it. He is just so angry that he says to Moses, let me kill them all. And Moses says, please God, don't, please have mercy on these people. But at this point, there's just too much, like, it's almost like the anger and the fire and everything that is going on, that Aaron runs and he gets some incense and he's like he's making atonement. And in the midst of all this that's going on, there's a plague comes and people are just dropping and dying. This is what's happening so fast. And as he gets in there and he makes atonement so quickly, eventually it ends. And at the end of that, 14,700 people within their camp, the whole of the Israelite camp, 14,700 of them lose their lives that day. And that closes this chapter. Whew! What a 3 chapters, huh? What a journey we have gone through. So in chapter 14, the Israelites start crying and weeping because they're scared. They're really terrified of what is coming ahead of them. They don't trust in the Lord. They think they're going to die. And so they're running to Moses like, panic, panic, panic alarms. These panic alarms then set off an anger in God, who then creates punishment on them. So then they've got 40 years then in the wilderness. So they've just created, or maybe he just wants them to stay there to like get to the point of faith. Because with faith, then they can move forward strong. He doesn't really want them into that place if they don't have the faith, because they're not going to follow his commands, and they would all die at that state in their mind. So it's like, okay, let's hold them down, like cause some control, hold them down in this place for 40 years until they mature into a tribe that's going to be faithful and going to follow my rules, so we can get through this and get to this promised land and live in this way. Then in 15, he's like, these are the offerings, to keep them, sort of reminding them that this is how you've got to live, and you're going to have to bring these things, these offerings. They're pretty shocking, really, the offerings. They aren't taken lightly. You're sacrificing animals for each offering. So this bloodshed should bring awareness to them. These things that they do against him is only going to cause more suffering. So once they stop doing that, the killings will stop. And then we end the chapter of all the people to rebel was the ones closest to God. You'd think they'd be the ones who would just have more of an understanding, but no, it's like they're too close to the power, and then it turned them into wanting power, to the point then they are trying to overthrow Moses and Aaron and just like lead them into who knows where. It's like, so there's a lot of ups and downs. It's a roller coaster ride, and it's left here with a devastation, a massacre really of the people. They have so less. So they're going to probably need 40 years to build up their strength, to build up, more understanding and how to move forward before they even get to the promised land. So I will leave, as always, these chapters with you for you to digest, and maybe read the links under this video so you get the real true details of how it's written in the Bible. And then I'll see you tomorrow if you want to come back here to read more from the book of Numbers. Thanks now. Take care. Bye.